much know that you're with us. Great, so that's the housekeeping done. So now on to why we're all here together tonight. So just last week marked 1 year since the start of the first national lockdown. In that time, more than 120,000 people have lost their lives to this pandemic, with many more still suffering from lingering illness and other secondary impacts on well-being. The last year has also been the toughest year that our NHS has ever faced. Years of cuts and underfunding have left our doctors and our nurses unable to cope with the COVID crisis, therefore putting thousands of patients' lives and care at risk. Amidst this crisis, the government has announced plans for a significant restructure of our NHS. The newspaper headlines, sorry, I've lost my notes. There we go. The newspaper headlines are claiming these proposals signal a reverse of privatisation. But this is very, very far from the truth. And that's why we decided to organise this event tonight. In reality, this is another dangerous corporate power grab on our NHS. It's bad for patients, it's bad for staff, and it's not going to deliver the fully funded and truly public NHS that we all need and deserve, and that the NHS New Deal is calling for. So here's what we're going to be discussing tonight. First up, I'll be handing over to John Bosco from We Own It and Dermot from the Just Treatment team, who are going to be breaking down the key points of the government's proposed NHS reforms, what they'll mean for our NHS and why we should be concerned about them. Then we'll hear from my co-host Sophia, who's going to give an update on the NHS New Deal campaign, explain plans for the next exciting phase of our organising, and crucially, how you can get involved. And then finally, I'll run through the kind of key asks and actions that we're hoping you guys are going to take tonight and after tonight to help push back against these damaging reforms and to build support for an NHS New Deal. And lastly, if you're on social media, please help us spread the word by using the hashtag NHS New Deal. So that's enough from me to kick things off. Without further ado, I'd like to hand over to John Bosco and Dermot to talk about these plans. Over to you guys. John Bosco first, I believe. Oh, you're muted, John Bosco.
Yes, sorry, I was so eager to speak, I forgot to unmute myself. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks a lot to Just Treatment for inviting us to this tonight as well, and of course, working with us on it. So it's We Own It. I just wanted to start by saying a little bit about what We Own It does and who We Own It is. I'm, as Hope has already said, John Bosco Mobo. I'm campaigns officer at We Own It. And We Own It is a small organization that has been campaigning for public ownership, for public services and against privatization since 2017. And we are really happy to be working with Just Treatment and everyone on this call, of course, for an NHS that serves communities, not profit. I hope that, of course, you will forgive me for focusing a great deal on the challenges that an ICS system, an integrated care system, which is what the government is looking to bring in, would pose to the idea of a national health service, the idea of a free, high quality, publicly funded and publicly provided health service free at the point of need, at the point of use. Yes, and at the end of the call, of course, the rest of the colleagues will talk about the actions that we can take to begin to fight back against this, and of course, to begin to make the case for a new deal for the NHS. This bill, or this white paper, which is what it is at this stage, is, as has already been said, is a corporate power grab of our NHS. I mean, early this year, Matt Hancock and Boris Johnson promised to bring in legislation that will hand over the current organization of NHS regions to something called integrated care systems. These plans will lead to more of our health services being handed over to private companies. And you might be asking, how is it going to do so? I'm going to highlight three main ways that this bill, or this white paper, is seeking to hand over our NHS to private interests and private corporations, essentially grabbing the NHS for private companies. The first thing it's going to do is that these new bodies, the Integrated Care Systems, or ICS, as I will call it for the rest of the call, it will commission health services for any area, pretty much going to do the job that CCGs do right now. But they could have private companies sitting on their boards and making decisions about our health services. This has already begun to happen. Centene, a US health insurance giant, who has just recently bought 49 NHS GP practices in London, were first involved in working with the Nottingham ICS, a trial run of the ICS system sometime a few years ago, I believe, on population health analysis. While population health can be described as an approach in which data is used to understand the needs of the population, many of us NHS campaigners are very skeptical about its potential to be used for rationing care. And we argue that when they talk about what the best use of resources is, what they really mean is that X and Y service should not be funded, so that it's not very good use of resources. And that often leaves the most vulnerable people to fall through the cracks. So to anyone who is still open-minded about private companies running our health services, it's worth noting that Centene is a giant health insurance corporation which stands accused in the US by the courts and by regulators of not providing adequate medical personnel to people that bought health insurance from them, not providing, or not paying their doctors who worked for them sufficiently. They were recently, I believe last year, found guilty in a court in Arkansas of not paying doctors who worked for them. And these are people that are going to be getting a share of our NHS and are going to be delivering services worth hundreds of millions of pounds of your money. Yeah, so as I wrote down my note here, Centenes are pretty much just baddies. And of course, that applies to every other company that will be seeking to run service in the NHS. For them, it's all about profit. The NHS should not be about profit. It should be about healthcare. Right. The second way that the ICS system will compromise the idea of a national health service is you would have seen coverage of the white paper in the press, and Hope did mention it earlier. It was covered as an end to the privatization brought on by the Health and Social Care Act of 2012. This bill is in no way that. It's pretty much a slightly worse version of the Health and Social Care Act of 2012. In fact, it will open the door to more cronyism, as yet more contracts could be given to government spouse, to the powers of Boris Johnson and Mark Hancock. Just like what has happened with Serco, and of course, throughout this pandemic, we've seen billions of pounds handed over to friends of people in the government, to donors of the Tory party, and we could see that kind of supersized under an ICS system. The bill promises to end the need to put contracts out to tender. However, this means that you will see even more money go to private companies under the guise of all hands on deck. And we've seen that used throughout this pandemic. We want to get every company involved in dealing with this crisis. Therefore, we're going to hand out billions of public money to our friends. Key organizations and campaigners and the local government association have raised concern that there will be a reduction of accountability and democratic oversight with the new ICS system. And that's most poignantly highlighted in the fact that we currently have 135 CCGs across the country. With the new ICS system, we will have 42 ICS systems representing or covering the whole of the country. The mergers inevitably result in larger bodies and more remote from the needs and concerns of any local community, meaning that we will have even less say to overturn decisions to give contracts to private companies. And I'm going to touch a little bit on this particular point when I kind of highlight a specific campaign that we're running against Centene at the moment, and how the fact that these bodies will be larger and more remote makes it even more difficult for us to campaign against crony contracts being given out to companies that have no business running healthcare. Yes, and we're doing one of those campaigns at the moment. And lastly, or the last way that ICSs would impact on our ability to have a fully funded and free at the point of use NHS, as if it wasn't worrying enough that private companies will have a bigger say in designing and providing services, what's even more concrete and worrying is that there is discussion of sharing the rewards with private companies in integrated care systems. This demonstrates a whole shift in the way we think about our health service, from one that was enshrined as providing comprehensive universal care to all residents, to one that must fit within a pre-decided budget. It is baked into these plans that any savings made will be shared as financial rewards. These will be quite literal incentives for reducing care for patients. This means money that should be spent on health services will instead be leaked as profit to private companies. So with rewards for underspending or really undertreatment and the rationing of services, and with private companies sitting as members of the board, they will furthermore bring an area under tight financial controls. Essentially, they will be incentivized to spend as little of their budget as possible on healthcare, so that, of course, they end up with a large enough pot to share out to each other in quote unquote rewards. So all of this sounds familiar, right? More private involvement, more contracts to private companies, and less funding for the NHS to look after people, so that they need other private options, which private companies with their new experience in delivering all sorts of healthcare will now be able to hoover up and provide. So integrated care is a financial accounting system, as some have called it. This is how they say integration, this is how they see integration, forcing people together to share the crumbs. It is time to reinstate our NHS as a fully funded public service. Profit has no place in our NHS. And of course, our plan to reinstate the NHS is incredibly popular. According to a recent poll conducted for We Own It, 3 out of 4 people polled said that they wanted to see our NHS reinstated after the pandemic. And that work has already begun, but this night is part of doing that work of pushing for NHS to be reinstated. And lastly, if I may just quickly mention the fact that we are currently running a campaign against Centene, the American health insurer that I mentioned earlier, who recently purchased 49 NHS GP surgeries in London. The process was extremely murky and appeared to be corrupt. But in any case, we are campaigning that that organization cannot be allowed to run NHS GP surgeries, because profit is not the motive that should drive care. It's people's needs that should drive care. So if you're interested in getting involved in that campaign, please go to weownit.org.uk, and you'll find all the resources you need to get involved on the website. Thank you so much, everyone, for having us. And over to you, Dermot.
Thanks so much, John Bosco. Yeah, it's really great to have We Own It. We're really solid allies in this, and it's really great, both We Own It, but also the wider NHS movement, that we're really, really keen to kind of collaborate in this fight. John Bosco mentioned the Centene campaign they're running. I think my colleague Mariam should also be able to share a link to a campaign around ICS, which they're running which We Own It are running at the moment, around the risks that ICS pose to the NHS in terms of a privatized takeover. And you can see that link in the chat now. And we fully encourage you guys to support We Own It. They do amazing work. So I'm going to chat through a few other of the risks. So obviously John Bosco did a really great job of kind of highlighting all of the kind of issues associated with increased privatisation of our health service that comes from these government proposals. We fully agree with all of that. And yeah, if you look at the detail of the NHS New Deal document, which we created along with the inputs basically of over 1,500 NHS users across the country, we really want to see an end to that privatisation of the NHS. And so, yeah, we fully support that kind of critique that John Bosco and we own it have set out. So a couple of the other things that we wanted to highlight, I think if Wiz is able to share the slides. One of the things that we think is a real risk alongside what we've said already is that this presents the chance that we're going to see the end of the national health service. So obviously we've already got differences in the way that the NHS is being run across the different devolved authorities in England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. But we feel that the ICS has got a real grave risk of accelerating that process. The National Health Service runs on the idea of a national risk pool. So really everybody in the UK's health is balanced and supported. So when you get sick, you know, everybody else that isn't sick, in a sense, is helping to look out for you and care for you. And what ICS starts to do is break that national risk pool into a number of small regional risk pools across the country. So those ICS organisations have to balance the books based on the costs of care for people in their area only. And so that means it's far more likely we're going to see those costs sometimes be much higher or lower in different parts of the country, and means that those different ICS organisations are going to provide different levels of care. And we've heard already there are incentives baked in for those organisations to reduce the care that's provided. We also know that ICS, these changes don't enshrine any responsibility to provide minimum standards of care across the UK. That's one of the things that people were really angry about when we spoke to them in the New Deal research that we did. And so the New Deal proposal, we've got calls for an end to these kind of health inequalities across the country and the growing differences in the standards of care, both across the UK and within England. The next thing that we're really worried about is these changes really present a chance for a real concentration of power in Westminster, and the democratic accountability that exists within the NHS right now is already really weak, and it's going to get weaker. So these reforms, actually, they're really unclear about how they are going to ensure the NHS is more responsive to local communities and local government, the kinds of transparency that's going to be around, the kind of accountability mechanisms that are going to exist for local politicians and local communities and patients and local NHS staff really aren't clear. It really is very obvious that there's a centralisation in Westminster of power. And it's going to be much easier for ministers to step in and force through changes that local communities don't want to see. Again, the New Deal talked a lot, and people were really keen on this. They were very frustrated that the NHS increasingly over recent years has become distant from them. They've not got a sense of how decisions are being made or how they can have a proper say over the future of their health service and the services that are available for them locally. And so again, these changes are going to worsen that situation and reduce the level of local accountability and local democracy within our NHS. And then one of the last areas, and by all means, there is much more wrong with this than we've got time to go into detail on tonight. And you will be able to, others have said in the chat, there's people like Alison Pollock and Keep Our NHS Public Matters, and other groups have done some really good work on this. So I'd encourage you to check out their work. But yeah, the last point I'll raise in relation to the ICS and the white paper plans tonight is to highlight the fact that really simply there's no new funding in this. And what we see anytime there are changes in the NHS without additional resources to pay for those changes, there are opportunities for services to be cut and clinical services to be reduced, NHS facilities to be closed down and to be privatised. And we're going to see that in all likelihood again. So we already had too few beds in the NHS. This isn't going to fix that. We've got very obviously very badly underpaid staff. We've got NHS nurses that are having to use food banks over the last year. We've seen cuts in the public health budget for years. We've got no plans in this to properly fund social care. So really these changes are going to accelerate lots of the reductions in quality of care and services that we've seen. And so I really think it's a deeply worrying moment for our health service. And again, something that we in the NHS New Deal are really keen to see change, with the commitment of a minimum £33 billion increase in the annual budget for healthcare in the UK. So thanks, everybody. I hope that's been a useful overview of some of the things that we're really worried about. And I'll hand back now to Hope and to Sophia, who can take you through some of the things that we're talking about in terms of next steps and response.
Thanks so much, John Bosco and Dermot. That was super, super helpful in breaking down why these reforms pose a major threat to our NHS. So thank you so much for that. I just want to really quickly say a massive apology to anyone who was struggling to get in and being told that the meeting was at capacity. For some reason, the meeting was set to have only 100 people. So we worked really quickly to fix that. And I think, yeah, we've seen lots more people come in. So really sorry if that affected you and you missed the start of the call. We are recording this call, so we will kind of take the recording and basically put it, link it online and send it out to everyone that registered, so that anyone who missed the start can catch up. So yeah, again, very sorry about that, and thank you for your patience. So, you know, we all agree, I think we all agree here that urgent change is needed in our health system, but NHS patients and staff deserve so much better than the dangerous proposals that are being put on the table. And what we're saying here tonight is that it's only an NHS New Deal which will actually deliver the fully funded and truly public NHS that we all need and deserve. So now it's really vital that all of us spread the word about why the government's plans are so flawed and put pressure on our MPs to reject them and to instead back the New Deal, which is what patients and staff want and deserve. So how are we going to do that? Well, to talk through how we plan to do just that, I'm going to hand over to my co-host and Just Treatment volunteer leader, Sophia, who's going to talk through a little bit about the campaign and where we go next.
Thanks, Hope, and hi, everyone. It's great to be here with so many people tonight who love the NHS and are willing to take action to ensure it gets the proper support it needs. So I want to start by giving a recap of our campaign so far and what we have achieved together. So just in case there are any new people here tonight who don't know about the campaign yet, the NHS New Deal is a set of demands crowdsourced from the views and experiences of NHS patients across the UK. It is shaped by over 1,500 conversations. The New Deal sets out our vision for a fully funded, truly public NHS which respects health workers, gives patients the power to shape its future, and ensures everyone the quality care we all deserve. Our plan to win a New Deal is based on 3 key facts. First, if politicians want to change things, they can. The pandemic has shown that MPs can do big things, but only with enough pressure. Second, there is huge support out there for the NHS. Last year, millions clapped for carers and painted rainbows in windows. We need to turn that support into action. Third, politicians care about votes, and many of them won by slim margins. We can use this leverage to hold MPs to their promises and show that if they don't back an NHS New Deal, they'll lose in the next election. And so our organising strategy centres on 3 simple principles. First, we will use our NHS stories to bridge the political divide and engage people of all parties in the campaign. Second, we will use our relationships. I'll wait for the slides to catch up. Yeah, so second, we will use our relationships to move people to action because people trust the word from friends and family above all else. Third, we'll use people-powered tactics to show the depth of support, build our movement, and put concrete pressure on our politicians to act. So these are the strong foundations that the NHS New Deal campaign is built on. built upon. And since we launched the campaign just over 2 months ago, we've been blown away by the response. More than 20,000 people from across the UK have added their name in support of the New Deal. More than 150 people have signed up to become NHS New Deal organisers in their constituencies. Hundreds of supporters have together donated thousands of pounds to help the campaign grow. The NHS New Deal has been endorsed by 12 organisations and counting, including our friends at We Own It, who are here with us tonight. The first phase of this campaign is all about spreading the word, reaching out to the millions who clapped for the NHS last year and getting as many people as we can signed up to support the New Deal. We have an ultimate phase 1 goal to hit 100,000 national signups, and so far this has been going really well. But we all know that a national campaign is only as strong as its local roots. That's why we've launched local petitions in every one of the 650 UK constituencies, and we are gathering signatures to build localised support for the New Deal. So now, with the added urgency around the government's damaging NHS proposals, we want to start ramping up efforts at a local level to reach out to our elected politicians and apply pressure on them to reject the government's plans and instead back the NHS New Deal. So that's why in the coming weeks and months, NHS New Deal organisers will be taking a lead on arranging meetings with MPs in their constituencies to talk to them about the NHS New Deal and persuade them to support it. A key part of these meetings will be about identifying patient stories and testimonials from people within constituencies that can really powerfully demonstrate to MPs why we need change. These stories are one of the strongest tools we have in pressuring MPs to act. Recently, the TUC ran a very similar campaign, which involved holding local meetings with MPs and key workers in their constituency to share personal stories and call on the MP to back a pay rise for the key workers. Through this campaign, the TUC managed to get a number of MPs from across different parties to sign up to the pay rise call, including Conservative Ian Duncan-Smith. There's an article you can read to find out a bit more about this, which will be shared in the chat now. And the crucial thing to remember is that when it comes to these MP meetings, whatever the outcome, our campaign gains. Because if MPs say they will back the New Deal, that puts us one step closer to the level of political support we need to win. But if they say no, then we can officially establish that they do not care about the NHS getting the proper support it needs. And then we can step up our local campaigning to make them change their stance through tried and tested tactics such as local media and direct action. But it's vital that this work doesn't just come from one individual. MPs will take these meetings much more seriously if they know there are many people in their constituency who are behind the New Deal. That's exactly why we've launched the local petitions as a mechanism for growing that local support. And we're asking organisers to reach at least 50 petition signatures for their constituency before holding MP meetings. By gathering these signatures and hitting this constituency target, organisers won't just be building local leverage, but will also be growing the overall number of NHS New Deal signups and taking us closer to that national 100,000 goal. And in doing this constituency level organising, we're also going to be using it as an opportunity to tell our friends, family and neighbours the truth about the government's NHS plans, because we know that neither the government nor the media will do it for us. It's up to us to spread the word about why these reforms will fail, both patients and staff. So how are we going to do this and how can all of you get involved? I'm going to pass it back to Hope to provide some answers.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sophia. Yeah, it's really great just looking back at how much has happened in the last 2 months. And thank you to every single person on this call that signed up for the New Deal, that's helped to spread the word, that shared the local petition. It's a really amazing start, but obviously we've definitely got our work cut out for us and there's lots more to do. So I hope that you'll continue to all be involved in taking this campaign forward from here, because it's clear that there's never been a more important time to fight for the future of our NHS. Years of cuts and underfunding, creeping privatisation, the COVID crisis, and now another corporate power grab means that we need as many people as possible to take action. So off the back of this call tonight, there are two key things that we really need people to do. Number one is that we need people to step up to build local pressure on their MPs. And number two, we need people to spread the word to their communities about these plans and about the New Deal. So I'm going to explain how you can get stuck in right away with these things. And I think Wiz is going to share some slides. Great. So on the first point about pressuring MPs, Mariam is now posting a link in the chat box. Yeah, great, there it is. So this link will take you to a simple form that you can fill in to say that you're up for stepping up to organise in your constituency for an NHS New Deal. It is these local organisers who will be taking a lead on arranging the local meetings with their MPs in the coming weeks and months. It would be absolutely amazing if as many people as felt able could step up to do that tonight. It doesn't matter if you've never done anything like this before. We will provide you with all the training, all the resources and support that you need every step of the way. We've already had, as Sophia mentioned, over 150 people step up to organise so far in the campaign, which is awesome. But with 650 constituencies, we're going to need many more. So if you think this is something you might be able to do, please do click on the link that's just been posted in the chat and fill out the form, because we need to hear from you and we need to get going with organising these MP meetings in constituencies across the UK. But we know not everyone will be able to take on an organiser role like this. That's absolutely fine. And there's still other really vital action that needs doing in terms of spreading the word to your communities about the government's plans and why the NHS New Deal is what is needed instead. Because as Sophia said, the government aren't going to be honest about what these plans mean. The media also aren't going to be honest about what these plans mean. So that's why we need to step up and spread the word. So to help you do that, we've created a brand new campaign resource that can help you do just that. And we're launching it tonight with you guys. So on one side is a double page A5 flyer. I think it might be the next slide, maybe it was. Great, there it is, there it is. On one side is a double page A5 flyer, which explains about the government's proposed NHS reforms and also about the NHS New Deal. The flyer has a QR code on it and a link which will take people to the sign up page for the NHS New Deal. And on the other side of it, as you can see, is an A4 NHS New Deal campaign poster, which people can then use to put up in their window to show support for the New Deal. And I know that maybe some of you already have these posters in your windows, which is awesome. So we need people in every corner of the country to be posting these flyers through the letterboxes of your neighbours. This is how we can actually cut through the media and the government lies and tell people the truth about the threats that our NHS is facing, and about why our vision, our shared vision for a fully funded and truly public NHS is what we need, not these damaging plans. So we're now posting a link in the chat box, which is going to take you to a page where you can actually order a pack of these new campaign flyers. Yeah, there we go. Marin's just posted it in the chat. Thank you. So in ordering these resources and distributing them in your communities, you'll not only be growing local awareness and support for the New Deal, but you'll also be helping to spread the word about the government's plans as well. So on that page, if you click on that link, we've also included a PDF version of the flyer, so that if you have access to your own printer, or you can get access to a printer, you can download and print the flyer for yourself rather than ordering it. So if everyone here tonight could ideally commit to either stepping up to become a local organiser, or to ordering a campaign pack and flyering your street, your neighbours, your community, or if you're really raring to go, why not do both? Because that would be even more awesome. You would all be making a huge impact on the fight for a fully funded and truly public NHS. Because we know that there's huge support and love out there for our NHS. But together, we need to turn that support into concrete action, which can hold our politicians to account. We can win a better future for our NHS, but only if enough people get involved and we all step up to play our part. So with that, we're actually coming to the end of the call. So I want to say thank you so much to our speakers, John Bosco from We Own It and Diarmuid from the Just Treatment team. And thank you so much to my co-host Sophia. But above all, thank you so much to each and every one of you who took time to join us here tonight. Whether you're already actively involved or you're new to the campaign, it's so brilliant to have you on board. And I just want to repeat again, massive apologies to anyone who was stuck not being able to get in at the start. We've fixed the problem, and we're also going to be emailing everyone with a recording of the meeting. So don't worry if you missed the early part. We have recorded it and we will be sharing it with you. So sorry again about that. So yeah, let's get out there. Let's all get out there and spread the truth about the government's damaging NHS plans, but also get thousands more signed up to the NHS New Deal. Thank you so much, everyone. Hope you all have a great night. Stay safe, and we'll see you very, very soon. Thanks, everyone.